Hey, it's Tom Zeeb with Traction Real Estate Mentors, and in this quick video, I want to talk about a personal weakness and how I overcome it. Keep it rolling and stay tuned. One of the personal weaknesses I have is that I'm dyslexic. Actually, really kind of highly dyslexic with numbers. I reverse them all the time. Vowels, letters, I tend to switch them around in words, which makes me a really bad speller. And I occasionally do it with the colors white and yellow too. I don't know why. And that's problematic, particularly on a real estate contract. You got to have the numbers right. If I screw the numbers up and reverse them, the numbers could be, a whole heck of a lot higher or lower, but basically just incorrect. So I've got to pay extra close attention to it. It's funny, when I first found out or figured it out, because no one ever knows these things. So no one, I was a pathetic speller through school. I used to spell really basic words wrong, and nobody could quite understand why. And the way I found out and figured it out was my grandfather. My old Italian Sicilian grandfather used to call me in college just to reach out and say hi. And literally the conversations were probably 8 to 12 seconds long. He'd call and say, "Hey, Tommy, it's your grandfather. Glad you're doing good. Bye." That was it. And I thought it'd be a nice thing to call him back and call him sometimes. And so, but I noticed what happened was I dialed the phone number and I'd get somebody else. All the time, I was constantly dialing the exact same phone number wrong. Finally, the guy said to me, he said, "Kid, I'm not your papa. Why you always call me instead?" And when I asked him what his number was, and I wrote it down, I realized that of the last 4 digits of the number, the second and third positions, I was flip-flopping them. So I thought, that's interesting. I seem to do that wrong every time if I'm looking at the number quickly and not really focusing or concentrating on it. So I focused and concentrated and wrote the number down, wrote my grandfather's number down wrong intentionally. I intentionally inverted the second and third positions of the last 4 digits of the phone number. Now, every time that I glanced at it, I accidentally dialed the correct number, the real number, and then I started being able to talk to my grandfather when I called. That's when I noticed I was dyslexic. How I got over it, well, a couple things. You got to have some workarounds. It still happens. I wouldn't say I'm over it. It's just part of me and who I am and the way things work. And what winds up happening is I find that on a contract, when I got to make sure the numbers are right, I touch the numbers. I touch the numbers one by one. And I touch them backwards as well. I touch them in reverse order. That way, as I'm going through the contract, I can see it and make sure that number makes sense. Of course, the ultimate backup is to just be sure that you have somebody else look at your contracts and say, "Look, I don't check the numbers here. I want to make sure I'm doing this right." So that's one thing that's helped. Another thing was when I was out of college and had a job, I wound up having to do a little bit of computer programming. And a little, which I knew nothing about, but as I learned how to code, I found that the focus I needed to do computer coding right, and you want to know how old it was Visual Fox Pro, so basically a dead programming language now. But the focus that it took me to do that seemed to have worked on my dyslexia and made it a little bit easier and better to manage. So I share this with you because it might help others. I say it sometimes in my events because I'm writing things out on I'm usually writing on a big easel pad, flip chart, and sometimes I write things wrong and spell things wrong, and I make a joke out of it because what else am I supposed to do? I just invert vowels. I tell people, and almost always at my master classes, somebody will come up to me and say, my son or my daughter or my grandchild is dyslexic, or that's what that is, because it's weird that it doesn't seem to be something that people still get. So it's okay. You'll be just fine. I can make a killing as a real estate investor, even though I'm dyslexic, even though I screw numbers up, and even though I reverse things, like even this hotel room, I can't remember the hotel room number. One thing that helps me there is I visualize typing it on a telephone keypad, which of course, telephone keypads people don't use as much because you just dial things out of memory. But an old telephone keypad, because I don't remember the numbers, I remember the sequence, 8, 2, 9. I can remember the pattern that I moved my finger in. So I find that to be a good workaround as well. Now, does that massively help you in your real estate investing business? Maybe, maybe not. But I think it helps you in general. And maybe if you know somebody struggling with the same issue, you can get over it. It's just dyslexia. It's not the end of the world. You focus on it and make it happen. That's my tip for today. For Traction Real Estate Mentors, it's Tom Zeeb signing off.